Week 1 of the AFLW finals is done. 2 teams are gone. Melbourne and Collingwood advanced through. North Melbourne and Fremantle are done. We're here to talk about the weekend's action. We'll kick off with the Fremantle versus Melbourne game, Mike, and Melbourne getting the job done. It wasn't as easy as it probably looked on the scoreboard.
Definitely not, Jim. No, this was a great game. It was a bit of a slugfest, to be honest, from start to finish, as you'd expect with finals footy. The weather was strong winds, which impacted on the game a little bit. But Dockers have been notoriously slow starters throughout the season. They're really a second-half team, and that proved to be the way it was again at the weekend. Melbourne started better against the wind, dominated the first quarter there on inside 50s, I think 9-1 before they got their first goal from Bannon against the breeze, and they really closed out that first quarter. We saw Lauren Magee playing, which was fantastic. Got a start for the first time in the season. So her season is a bit of a fairy tale as well so far, after she'd arrived so late.
I was going to ask you about Lauren there, mate, that she's sort of come in late, as we spoke to her probably a month ago, and she wasn't overly confident of where she was at, but she was there. I mean, her stats aren't through the roof. They're quite 5 disposals, but her ability to lock down one of the opposition forwards and almost put don't have to worry about her. Lauren's sorted her out is quite outstanding for someone so young in the game.
Absolutely. It's a huge indictment of the trust and faith that Melbourne have put in Lauren, I suppose. As you say, stats weren't through the roof. That first quarter, she actually gave away an early penalty for holding the ball. She finished up, I think, on 5 disposals, but the impact of those disposals was huge. She was on Gemma Houghton for the game, who's Docker's most dangerous forward, and she really did a good job on locking her down. Her best quarter was, I think, the third quarter, and again in the fourth, where she came with at least 2 or 3 repel 2 or 3 attacks in contests with Gemma Houghton. Lauren came out with the ball and sent it down the field with a big kick when the pressure really was on Melbourne. So her involvements might have been few and far between, but she was sent there to do a job, and she did a great job. And for a person that's only played a few games, that's absolutely fantastic that you have a player that you can ask to do that.
Yeah, I've got in my notes here that she had, particularly in the start of the last quarter, she had a couple of massive moments, and I think you just touched on it there that, if she hadn't have stepped in when she did, I think Fremantle could have really tightened up the game, and who knows how it would have gone for Melbourne from there.
Oh yeah, the game was really in the balance at that stage, and Melbourne were against the wind again, and they nicked a goal in that in the second quarter that they were against the wind when the pressure was really on, which kept them in it. Of course, Dockers came back a little bit in the second half, as you would have expected that they would do, but they also switched Cara Antonio to the centre for the second half, but the Demons held out and absorbed up that pressure, and they really played well tactically from start to finish.
So Melbourne advanced through. They take on Adelaide at Adelaide Oval this Saturday. A massive game for the Demons coming up, but I can't see Lauren. She will certainly be part of it going on the weekend's form and the ability to lock down an important forward for the Crows.
Yeah, look at it. She's just shown that she can do that job, and it's at the business end of the season, and she's done it with style. So I think we'll see Lauren in there. Hopefully we might see Niamh McAvoy involved. She's been emergency now for about 3 or 4 rounds. She's eaten it up in the VFL, any of the games she's played there. So we'd love to see her involved. But yeah, Lauren looks like a dead set to maybe take on a role marking down one of the Crows' dangerous forwards. The big question would be, who do you pick?
Yeah, exactly. In the other game, mate, it was North Melbourne taking on Collingwood, and this was a really good game. Collingwood advancing through by 6 points.
This was another nail-biter, Jim. And look, this was quarter by quarter. Collingwood went ahead in the first quarter by a couple of goals. North came back in the second, as you'd expect. North went ahead by 3 goals in the third quarter, and then we had Collingwood coming right back into it in the last and nicking it with the final goal of the game. Very exciting game throughout. Do you want to talk us through some of the major aspects of that?
Yeah, I guess you sort of said it there, Mike, is that Collingwood kicked away to an early lead, and you're thinking North Melbourne aren't in this game, and this could get pretty ugly for them pretty quickly, but they slowly chipped away, and by the end of halfway through the second quarter, North Melbourne were all over the game, and Collingwood looked like they could hardly get their hands on the ball. Ash Sheridan was outstanding in that first half for Collingwood, and sort of missed 3 opportunities at goal. It should have would have turned her good game into a great game, and could have really set the Magpies really alight. But not to worry, I guess. so often you get to finals and, when Collingwood were in that position where they're 14 points down at three-quarter time, they got nothing to lose and they just all out attack, and it worked out well for them. North just couldn't hold them back for long enough.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things we saw even on some of the pictures from the game on the coaches' boards. The Magpies had messages of fight to the last minute or whatever, and it's an aspect of their game that we've definitely seen an improvement on from last season. And really, the culture and the unity amongst the players is really evident as well, that they're all 100% backing each other.
Absolutely. And it was a really entertaining game, a really good showpiece for women's footy, a fantastic atmosphere at Victoria Park for the Collingwood spiritual home ground for people that don't know that. So it was really good. And as I said, Sheridan was outstanding in the first half. She had involvements throughout the second half as well. Sarah Rowe was consistent throughout the game, but she really lifted it up in the final quarter when Collingwood needed her to. I think she probably had six of her 12 disposals in that last quarter and really drove them from that sort of middle of the ground inside that forward 50, and had a couple of significant moments on the outside wing. For anyone that's watching the game back, she's pretty easy to spot with her bright purpley pink boots. So she stands
and her
out.
shoulder strapping at the moment as well, unfortunately. So glad to see Sarah's shoulders holding out, and hopefully it makes it all the way through. Obviously you touched on it there, but I suppose worth mentioning that historically it was the first ever final, men's or women's, that was won by Collingwood at Victoria Park. So that was fantastic to see. Of course, for North, consistent all season, Aileen Gilroy, she had another cracking game as well.
Yeah, her ability to rebound off half back. I mean, she's got 12 disposals down here, 11 kicks. I'd love to know the meters gained by those kicks, because she doesn't really sort of get it and kick it very short very often. They're always long kicks and really kicking over that zone defense of the opposition team. So I'd like to know that. If anyone can tell me, that'd be great. She was outstanding, and I guess no surprise that we know that Aileen's impact is with the ball, but also just as the things you don't get stats for. There was a massive hit on a Collingwood player. I think it was Tani Brown on the wing I'm not sure if it was the third quarter, I'm going to say. But yeah, she was making her impact felt. And you just felt that whenever she was near the ball, that she was either going to get the ball or she was going to take someone out with the ball. So she's very entertaining to watch, and unfortunate to see her season come to an end.
For sure. And of course, Aileen was one of the stars of the season, and we look forward to hopefully seeing her back next year. Onwards go the Magpies, and Sarah and Aishling are through, where they'll meet the Brisbane Lions and Orla Dwyer next weekend up in Queensland. How do you see that one going?
It's going to be a cracking contest. I think it'll be interesting to see how Collingwood back up from such a taxing encounter this weekend, and obviously the travel up to Brisbane as well. On the flip side, you could say that week's rest sometimes isn't always the best for teams who have that first week sitting out of the finals. And in the men's competition, they have that first week and then potentially going into that second week, even if they lose. But this is a must-win game for both sides, because whoever doesn't, their season is done.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Two belters of games coming up again, Jim, and I look forward to catching up with you next Monday and reviewing the weekend's action, where we will know who are the grand finalists for 2021. No matter what way it goes, there's going to be Irish involvement, which is fantastic to see. And barring injuries, we should have a premiership coming back to Ireland, but we'll take it 1 week at a time, and we'll see who's involved in that grand final after next weekend's preliminary final action.